Section 22 of Library Essays, Papers Related to the Work of Public Libraries. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information, or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Verla Vieira. Library Essays, Papers Related to the Work of Public Libraries, by Arthur Elmore Bostwick. Library Circulation at Long Range. Is there still a place for the delivery station in the scheme of distribution adopted by libraries, large or small? This question is pertinent not so much because the use of the delivery station is being discontinued, but because of a general feeling that any system of book distribution that does not admit of seeing and handling the books is inferior to a system in which this is possible. It will thus be noted that the question of the delivery station, pure and simple, as opposed to the deposit station and the branch, a question once hotly debated, is at bottom simply that of the closed shelf versus the open shelf. The branch has won out as against the delivery station, and the open as against the closed shelf. It will also be noted, however, that none but small libraries find it good policy to place all their books on open shelves. There is, and always will be, a use for the closed shelf in its place, and the larger the library, the more obvious does that place become. Now, circulation through a delivery station is nothing but long-distance closed-shelf issue. Circulation in which the distance between charging desk and stack has been greatly multiplied. And a legitimate reason for closed-shelf issue of this kind is that it is carried on under conditions where open-shelf issue is impossible, about the only excuse for the closed shelf in any case. Now, no matter how many books may be in branches or deposit stations, it is obviously impossible for the whole central stock to be at any one of them, still less to be at all of them at the same time. And there are cases where it is impracticable to use any deposit at all, while delivery from the central library is feasible and reasonably satisfactory. There will always continue to be, therefore, some circulation from a distant reservoir of books that cannot be seen and handled by the reader for purposes of selection. Under these circumstances, it is interesting to inquire whether this type of service has any good points to offset its obvious disadvantages. And it is consoling to find that there are such. Not enough to cause us to select an unsupported delivery station deliberately, where a deposit or a branch would be possible, but enough to satisfy us that a delivery station is worth while if we can use nothing better, and to induce us to lay stress, if we can, on the particular features that make it satisfactory. For myself, after 3 years in a library with a large station system, following an experience in institutions where there was nothing of the kind, I may say that it has gratified and surprised me to find that personal contact between librarian and reader is possible in such a system, to almost the same extent as in an open-shelf library, although the contact is of quite a different quality. The quality of the contact is related to that possible with the open shelf, precisely as mental contact by letter writing is always related to that by conversation. It is superior, if anything, to that usually obtained in short-distance closed-shelf circulation, although possibly not to that obtainable under ideal conditions. The establishment of more or less personal relations of confidence between library assistant and reader takes longer and is less complete when the sole intermediary is written language. It is always harder and requires more time to become intimate by letter than by personal intercourse. In the former case, the contact is purely mental. In the latter, it is affected by personal appearance and conduct, by facial expression and manner. All this is one of the chief factors in the success of the open shelf. But the advantages are not all on the side of the direct personal contact, as the correspondence schools have been astute enough to find out. In the first place, litera scriptum manet. One may read the same written communication several times, whereas the same spoken communication is of and for the moment. Then the very fact that the written message is purely intellectual and has no physical accompaniments may lend force to its intellectual appeal when that appeal has once gained a foothold. When this is the case, the writer may take his time and may plan his campaign of influence more carefully than the speaker. The effect of trivial circumstances, of unfavorable personal elements, of momentary moods, is obviated. It may be, then, that if personal relations between librarian and reader can be set up through the written word, there may be something of this kind even in long-distance, closed-shelf circulation. This relation may be lacking, even when the circulation is at short range. It is usually lacking at the closed-shelf delivery desk, necessarily so in a rush, although at quieter times there is no good reason why it should not exist. I know that it sometimes does exist under these conditions, though a counter between two human beings, whether in a store, an office, or a library, is not conducive to relations of confidence. It may even be lacking in the open shelf room, when assistants on floor duty have not the proper spirit and a due conception of their own responsibilities and opportunities. It may exist at long range. But does it? I can answer for only one library, but I have no reason to believe that our experience is by any means exceptional. Here are some instances, reported at my request from our own station department by Miss Elsie Miller, the department chief. Number 1. A short time ago, one of the patrons of Station 27 sent in a slip asking to have his book renewed, and requested that we send him information on peace conferences. The latter was duly sent, but through some error the renewal was overlooked. Consequently, 6 days later an overdue postal was mailed. This gentleman is always quite prompt in returning his books, and evidently had never before received a notice. So he was most perturbed, and wrote us a very long letter explaining the mistake. He said that he felt that the librarian should know that he was not at fault, had not broken the rules, and had a clear record. But in imparting this fact to the librarian, he wanted it understood that the assistant committing the error should not in any way be punished for it, because she had helped him greatly in his work by sending the very facts on peace conferences that he was looking for. He asked that the assistant be praised for her good work rather than blamed for her error. Number 2. Celia R., whom we have never seen but all feel well acquainted with, tried in vain for some time to borrow a certain little volume of Eskimo stories, but succeeded only in getting substitutes. About the middle of December she sent in with her card the following request: "Please give me Eskimo stories, because it is Christmas, and you never send the right book." Number 3. The cards of Mr. and Mrs. M., of Station 54, come in with a slip: "Please send a novel." We know that the books must be 7-day adventure stories, and must have publishers' bindings and an interesting frontispiece, or they will come back to us on the next delivery unread. Number 4. At least one of the S family's cards is reported lost each week. We immediately recognize Mrs. S.'s voice when she telephones, and ask whether it is Ralph's or Walter's card that is missing this time. In a tone of despair she probably says, "No, it is Morris's." We promise to look the matter up thoroughly. Then we do no more about it. After 2 days we call up and tell her we are very sorry we have been unable to trace the card. "Oh, we found it here at home. Thank you so much for your trouble," she answers. "And by the way, we have not been able to find Nicholas's card all day." So we look up Nicholas's card in the same way. No S card was ever known to be lost outside of the S household. Number 5. C39 of Station 6 has this note clipped to her reader's index: "Give overdue notices to Stations Department." We hold her notices a few days to give the books a chance to come in, because she uses a bi-weekly station. Each time that she receives an overdue notice, it costs her 10 cents car fare to come to the library to investigate, and it costs the library a half hour of an assistant's time to pacify her. Our new method works beautifully, and both library and reader find it economical. Number 6. An old gentleman of Station 15, at least we have pictured him as old, for it is a trembling hand that writes the titles, for a long time sent in a long list of German novels which we marked "not in catalogue." We were out of printed German lists at the time, so selected a good German novel and sent it to him. It was immediately returned. We tried again, in vain. Then again. We sent him everything that the average German finds intensely interesting, but the books always came back to us on the next delivery. One day we substituted Im Busch by Gierstecker. He kept it 2 weeks, and then his card came in with a list of Gierstecker novels copied from the title page of Im Busch. He read all our Gierstecker books, and then wanted more. We wrote him that he had read all the books of this author and again substituted. Then a fresh list of Gierstecker came in, and now he is reading all those books a second time. Number 7. One of the station men watches our substitutions and looks over them to get ideas for his own reading. Once, when we had substituted Leroux's Mystery of the Yellow Room, the station man ordered a copy of that book for himself, and finding it interesting, read all the Leroux books in the library. Number 8. Here is a letter from a youthful station patron. Please send me the 3rd grade, the Golden Goose book. Please do. Kisses. XXX. These incidents, which of course might be multiplied indefinitely, show at least that the service rendered by a delivery station is not, or at any rate need not be, a mere mechanical sending of books in answer to a written demand. So much for the element of personal contact and influence. Next, let us consider for a moment that of actual contact with the books from which selection can be made. This, of course, does not take place in any closed shelf system, least of all in one at long range. But in certain cases, this contact is of no special advantage. In particular, if a reader wants one definite book and no other, he may get it as surely, or be informed as reliably, that he cannot get it, and why at a delivery station as at a set of open shelves. The only drawback in long-range work is that the user must wait longer before he can get his book, provided it is on the shelves. Against this wait must be set the time and cost of a personal visit to the distant library building. Of the browsing contact, there can be none, of course. This seems a more serious matter to me than it would be to those who deprecate browsing, or at any rate discourage it. But there is no question that the alternative between library and delivery station, if squarely presented, should always be answered by choosing the library. Here the alternative is between the delivery station and no use at all. This brings up another point. May it not be, in some cases, that we really are offering the reader an alternative between delivery station and library, and that through indolence he takes the former? Doubtless this is often the case, and it should not be so. The location of every delivery station should be studied from this standpoint, and its continuance should be made a matter of serious question. When all is said and done, there will remain some stations where a minority of users would go to the library if the station were discontinued, and would be benefited thereby at the expense of a little more exertion. The fact that there are some real advantages in long-range circulation should enable the librarian, in such a case, to strike some kind of a balance, satisfy himself that this particular station is or is not of resultant benefit to the community, and act accordingly. It is also possible, in some cases, to combine the deposit feature with a delivery station, and it goes without saying that this should be done just as the delivery feature should be added to every deposit and every branch where it is feasible. Finally, the long-range circulation may be adapted to the use of the busy by enabling them to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Libraries are always trying, with doubtful success, to get hold of persons who are busy about something else, factory workers, shoppers, and so on. A residential district is a better place for a branch library than a shopping district, although the number of different persons who pass the door daily is larger in the latter, because there is more leisure in the residence street, less preoccupation and bustle. But if it is made possible for the shopper to use the library with practically no delay while he is shopping, will he not take advantage of the opportunity? A recent experiment in the St. Louis Public Library convinces me that he will. We are now operating a downtown branch in the book department of a large department store, and we have an hourly messenger service between the library and the station. I believe this is the first time that such frequent delivery service has been tried. This makes it possible to leave an order at the beginning of a shopping trip and to find the book ready at the close of the trip. The interval would never be much over an hour, and might be as little as 15 or 20 minutes. There are two favorable factors here which it might be difficult to secure elsewhere. The shopping district here is near enough to the central library to make frequent delivery possible, and the management of the store where our station is located is broad enough to see that the possibility of borrowing a book free from the library, even when presented as an immediate alternative to the purchase of the same book from the counters of the store, does not, in the long run, injure sales. It is not absolutely necessary, of course, to operate this scheme from a department store. Neither is greater distance an absolute bar to frequent deliveries. I believe that this kind of long-distance service is well worth the attention of librarians. And in general, I believe that a realization that all long-distance service has its good points may do good by inducing us to dwell on those points and to try to make them of more influence in our work. End of section 22.